Well, at least there's one Hollywood elite who is in trouble with the FBI, which is a rarity these days, unfortunately, but Alec Baldwin is in complete panic mode right now after this new report from the FBI that basically concluded that Alec Baldwin did indeed pull the trigger. And Alec Baldwin decided that the best thing to do after that was to basically go and do all these interviews with people like Chris Cuomo and CNN, where he complained and whined about this entire thing. So Alec Baldwin shoots himself in the foot during Rust's interview with Chris Cuomo, doubles down on claim he did not pull the trigger after FBI finds otherwise. And we have part of the interview here with Chris Cuomo where he basically is doubling down on all of that. And it's really cringe to watch because, you know, Alec Baldwin, you know, it must be very difficult for an elite communist like Alec Baldwin to have to be in this type of situation where he can't just bend reality to fit whatever narrative he wants. So let's go ahead and take a look here and see what he has to say, or at least part of it.
In an earlier interview, you said, I didn't pull the trigger. And there's all this stage direction about the hammer, which is obviously a part of a revolver that people can look up for themselves, but that you pulled it back as the scene was directed for you to do. You say you never pulled the trigger, but the gun went off.
Right.
You do the ABC interview, and it was kind of left there. That will not make sense to people. If a bullet comes out of a gun, they say, well, then someone fired it.
You're familiar
in your
with
hand.
this did not come from me.
So, and then he just, you know, launches into a whole bunch of excuses that he comes up with. I'm telling you what, Alec Baldwin is totally losing it right now with all of these crazy he's literally blaming everything but himself for this entire crazy situation where he has found himself in, and he's literally refusing to take any sort of responsibility for this entire thing. It's pretty remarkable.
Say, well, then someone fired.
You're familiar with this did not come from me. This came from the DA's office themselves. You're familiar with what fanning a gun is. Have you heard of that phrase, fanning a gun?
Yes, but explain
So if you pull the hammer back and you don't...
He doesn't know what fanning the gun means.
lock the hammer. If you pull the hammer back pretty far, in old Western movies, you'd see someone fan the hammer of the gun. The hammer didn't lock. You pulled it back to an extent where it would fire the bullet without you pulling the trigger, without you locking the hammer. The man who's the principal safety officer on the set of the film declared that the gun was safe when he handed it to me. The person who was the principal...
So... apparently, okay, like so you see what's going on here. He's starting to blame it on everyone else. He's blaming it on the person that handed him the gun. He's blaming it on the people that were supposed to load it and everything else, and he's blaming it on, you know, fanning and all of that type of stuff. It's just absolutely insane. But Alec Baldwin is in a lot of trouble right now. He is continuing to find like more and more evidence is stacking up against him. But the crazy thing about all of this is that at some point in this interview, he talks about the fact that he knew back in January because of private investigators that he had that was working on the case and everything else as well, that he was not going to be charged for any of this, which is really insane. But it's also just amazing to see how all of these elites can continue to get away with all sorts of crazy stuff like this. I mean, that's really the story that this boils down to at the end of the day, is that Hollywood elites are able to basically get away with anything and they won't get in trouble for it. We continue to see this time and time again. So anyway, you know, and there's just story after story about him and him melting down and him blaming it on Trump and Trump supporters and everything else. He's blaming it on everything but himself for why he basically killed this person.
The President of the United States said he probably shot her on purpose, and he was pointing the finger at me and saying I was responsible for the death. 1000% I'm nervous that a bunch of people who were instructed by the former president to go to the Capitol and they killed
So then he starts talking about how Trump supporters were going to come after him, and it's just absolutely insane. So with all of that aside, let me know what you think about all of this in the comments below. Let me know what you think about what Alec Baldwin continues to say about this entire situation. He is absolutely refusing to take any sort of responsibility for it, and it's pretty insane to watch, and it's going to be interesting to see how this whole story shakes out and what the conclusion will be. So with all of that being said, just remember that guns don't kill people. Alec Baldwin kills people. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. Let me know what you think in the comments below, and I'll talk to you all in another video very soon.